Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, the show where we explore the unexpected intricacies of human health and sometimes discover that our bodies have a sense of humor all their own. I'm Ethan, your friendly observer of all things quirky in the human condition.
And I'm Alara, the one who loves to dig into these fascinating topics and then crack a few jokes about them. But don't worry, the jokes are always on the house. No hidden fees here.
Today we're discussing anxiety, breathing, and the curious concept of torso stiffness. Yes, you heard me right, torso stiffness. It's not exactly something you brag about at a dinner party.
Hi, everyone. I have a stiff torso. Pass the mashed potatoes. Probably not the conversation starter you'd choose, but it turns out our torsos might have a bigger influence on our stress levels than we ever imagined.
The premise is that there's a growing body of research on how slow breathing affects the brain. Apparently, there's an actual circuit in our heads that helps us chill out when we breathe slowly.
Imagine your brain having its own relaxation hotline. You dial in with a few deep breaths, and that circuit picks up the call, ready to help you calm down.
Researchers identified this circuit involving the anterior cingulate cortex, the pons, and the medulla. In mice, when that circuit was activated, the mice breathed slower and showed fewer signs of anxiety. When it was shut off, they got stressed.
So, picture a laid-back mouse going, "Hey, no big deal, I'm totally zen." And then you flip a switch, and suddenly that mouse is freaking out because it can't find its cheese. The power of the brain is wild.
It does make you wonder about us humans. We've been practicing yoga, mindfulness, and other breathing exercises for centuries. But now we have some science saying, yes, these traditions might actually make sense.
It's like the scientific community finally arrived at a party that's been raging for thousands of years. Oh, so that's why people do slow breathing. There's an actual reason beyond looking super serene in spandex.
Before we dive into more details, let's look at anxiety itself. The global burden of anxiety has gone up significantly over the last few decades. Some countries are seeing an increase of over 100%.
It's not exactly the kind of top score you want. Congratulations, you've doubled your national anxiety rates. Where do we send the trophy?
Researchers pointed out that if you leave anxiety untreated, it affects daily functioning, relationships, everything. Then come the serious consequences like depression, substance abuse, chronic health issues. It becomes a chain reaction.
It's like the world's worst domino setup. One piece tips over, anxiety starts, and then it knocks over everything else. Work performance, relationships, general enjoyment of life. Makes me want to bubble wrap my psyche.
But we can't forget that conventional treatments, like SSRIs or benzodiazepines, don't always solve the problem. They can have significant side effects, and some people get little relief.
Plus, there's the whole mask the symptom, but not necessarily handle the root cause aspect. The underlying stress circuit might still be humming along, ready to pounce at the next worry.
Exactly. That's why there's interest in more natural or holistic approaches, like breathing techniques, because they might directly address the brain mechanisms behind anxiety.
And because breathing is free. You can't exactly charge for oxygen, at least not yet. Let's hope we never get there.
Let's circle back to that brain circuit. The anterior cingulate cortex, the pons, and the medulla. The first time I heard about them, I thought they sounded like exotic vacation destinations.
Come visit the beautiful beaches of the medulla. Your stress will float away on the waves of neuronal activity.
But these brain regions are crucial for regulating not only our emotional states, but also how we breathe. So, when we consciously decide to slow our breathing, signals go from the cortex to the pons, which then inhibits activity in the medulla, leading to slower breathing.
It's like sending a calm email to your body. We're taking it slow now, so no frantic breathing or panicking.
The Salk Institute's research suggests that by activating that circuit, you can reduce stress. So that's a direct neurological reason behind why yoga and mindfulness breathing help.
Yoga teachers everywhere are silently cheering. See? We told you for years this stuff works. Science just took a while confirming it.
So that's the neurological side. But there's also a biomechanical side called torso stiffness. This might sound like a description of a bad wrestling move, but it's about how muscle tension in the torso restricts blood flow and increases anxiety.
Who knew your ribcage could be so dramatic? Tense up the torso and suddenly your body's like, "Hey heart, good luck circulating blood under these conditions." While your anxious brain goes, "Yep, let's keep that tension coming."
The tension reduces venous return, the way blood returns to the heart. If your torso's stiff, the heart can't pump blood as efficiently. That might lead to rapid heartbeat and shortness of breath, classic anxiety symptoms.
It's a physical loop of panic. You tense up because you're anxious, which restricts blood flow, which makes you feel more anxious, so you tense up more. Like a hamster wheel, but with your torso.
The good news is that aerobic exercise can loosen that torso stiffness, and if you combine it with controlled breathing, you get a strong tool for reducing anxiety.
Makes sense. You move around, shake out the tension, and breathe in a way that calms the mind. Your heart goes, "Finally, some elbow room in here."
That's right. The study mentioned how consistent aerobic activities, like swimming or cycling, help reduce stress because they reduce tension and improve blood flow. Then add slow, deliberate breathing, and you trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms the body.
I love how something so simple, moving around and breathing properly, ends up being the ultimate anti-anxiety formula. It's basically nature's free therapy plan.
Of course, the real question is, why do so many of us breathe incorrectly in the first place? We're all kind of hyperventilating our way through life, chest breathing instead of using the diaphragm.
Modern stress. The body's tricked into thinking we're constantly under siege, except the threats are just emails and traffic. So we do these shallow chest breaths that keep us in fight or flight all day.
And with that, we produce more cortisol, more tension, more anxiety. Pretty soon, we've got a global epidemic of people forgetting how to exhale.
Remember to breathe should be more than a motivational slogan. It's an actual directive.
So, let's outline a few practical tips from this research. One idea is to breathe through your nose. That filters air and helps regulate carbon dioxide levels, which is key for calming down.
It's also a natural humidifier. Think of the nose as the VIP entrance for oxygen, while the mouth is the side door. By choosing the nose, you're making sure your body gets the high-quality air treatment it deserves.
Another tip is to aim for horizontal breathing. That means expanding your ribs sideways rather than lifting your shoulders up and down.
It's basically the difference between broadening your wings and turning into a stressed pigeon, bobbing its head up and down. Horizontal breathing keeps your torso relaxed.
They also mention breathing less and more lightly. Sometimes we overbreathe, which depletes carbon dioxide too much, ironically increasing anxiety.
Who knew breathing too much could be a problem? You spend your whole life hearing, take a deep breath, and then suddenly it's not too deep, not too often. We humans are complicated.
Controlled breathing practices like alternate nostril breathing or buteyko retrain our stress response. That's where that cortex pullens medulla circuit gets nudged toward calm.
I like the idea of nudging the brain. It can be stubborn sometimes, so a little nudge is nicer than a shove.
Now, let's connect the dots with physical exercise. Aerobic activities challenge the heart to pump more efficiently. And with the right breathing technique, that also keeps the torso flexible.
Yes, we're building the perfect synergy. Move the body, calm the mind, free the flow of blood, and everything just works better.
The research discussed heart rate variability, HRV, which is how much your heart rate fluctuates over time. Higher HRV correlates with better stress resilience.
A higher HRV is like emotional gymnastics. Your body can adapt quickly to any stressor. Low HRV, on the other hand, might keep you stuck in anxiety mode.
Right? People with low HRV might get stuck in that anxious state. But with consistent exercise and better breathing, HRV can improve.
So if your heart's a little stiff in its timing, you can teach it to loosen up, like giving your heart a jazz lesson, letting it improvise.
Let's talk about the underlying causes of anxiety, so we know why these solutions matter. Anxiety can come from neurotransmitter imbalances, chronic stress, or traumatic experiences.
And those factors feed into each other. You're stressed, you don't sleep well, you produce more stress hormones, you get anxious about the lack of sleep, and around we go.
Modern lifestyles don't help. Lots of screen time, not enough movement, poor diet, minimal social interaction. We're basically engineering ourselves into anxiety.
It's like we built an anxiety machine and forgot where the off switch is.
But we do have an off switch, or at least a dial, in our own bodies. That's what this breathing research shows.
Exactly. Instead of feeling hopeless about stress, we can think, wait, I can dial down the tension by how I breathe and move.
We've also got to consider how diagnosing anxiety can be tricky. People might not realize how anxious they are until it's severe, or they brush off symptoms.
Then a few months later, they're lying awake at 3 a.m., heart racing, mind spinning, wondering why they can't relax.
Part of the solution is self-awareness, noticing that your breath is shallow or your torso is stiff, and choosing to slow down and expand your lungs properly.
That awareness is huge. We can't fix what we don't notice. We get so disconnected from our bodies sometimes, it's no wonder stress sneaks up on us.
Exactly. Now, regarding practical applications, it doesn't have to be complicated. Taking a 5-minute walk and focusing on slow nasal breathing can work wonders.
Or even setting a reminder on your phone that says, breathe. We set reminders to buy milk, but ignore the one thing that keeps us alive and sane.
And if you're up for it, more structured practice like yoga, tai chi, or a short jog can definitely help. But the key is the mindful breathing. Otherwise, you're just flailing around.
I can picture it. I tried jogging but mouth-breathed at top speed and ended up hyperventilating. That's not exactly the path to serenity.
When you slow your breath, you're letting carbon dioxide levels stay balanced. That helps your body shift into a parasympathetic state, rest and digest rather than fight or flight.
And that's where everything slows down. Heart rate, racing thoughts, the feeling of panic. You realize that the stressor might be manageable, not a giant saber-toothed tiger.
Meanwhile, if you let your torso become stiff, it's like making your heart run an obstacle course. Add shallow breathing, and you're basically requesting a full-time anxiety gig.
I can see the job listing now. Wanted, chronically tense torso. Must keep individual anxious at all times. Benefits? None.
Exactly. But it's not just about avoiding tension. It's also about actively training the body to remain flexible. Aerobic exercise does that by regularly stretching the muscles and increasing circulation.
Which is why, after a good run, people often report a sense of calm. It's that afterglow of relaxed muscles and a balanced ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide.
Right. There's also a cognitive aspect. When you do slow, controlled breathing, you focus your mind. That reduces the ruminations, the negative mental loops fueling anxiety.
It's hard to keep rehashing worst-case scenarios when you're counting slow inhales and exhales. It's mindfulness in action.
That's the synergy. Physical changes in how we breathe and mental changes in how we focus. Together, they calm anxiety from both directions.
It's a sweet deal. No subscription fee, no weird side effects, just more peace and fewer sleepless nights.
A big part of Dr. Mercola's philosophy is going for the root cause. If the root cause is partly neurological and partly biomechanical, solutions should address both brain circuitry and torso stiffness.
Our bodies are integrated systems. Fix one part, and other parts often follow. Neglect one part, and it might sabotage the rest.
Precisely. That's why purely chemical solutions might not solve the mechanical issues, like tension in the torso or poor breathing patterns.
Right. Pills don't come with personal trainers to remind you to breathe horizontally. Not yet anyway.
I'd like to consider how we can spread this knowledge. It's not enough to just say, hey, exercise and breathe better. People need to understand how it directly impacts their anxiety so they'll be motivated.
Exactly. When you realize your stress might be physically cutting off blood flow, that's a pretty strong incentive to loosen up.
Educating people on torso stiffness is also crucial. It's a vivid image. Your upper body's muscles are so tense, they literally block your heart from doing its job efficiently.
It's body language in the most literal sense. When you're anxious, you're closing yourself off, making it harder for blood to return to the heart.
And the new research about the brain circuit clarifies that breathwork isn't just fluff. There's a legitimate neural circuit behind it.
It's not just something you do at a retreat while chanting. There's real science confirming why it helps.
So here's the comprehensive view. Anxiety is rising globally. Conventional treatments aren't always enough. And the physical-mental interplay is huge.
Which means there's also big hope if we're willing to make a few changes. Our bodies are telling us, hey, you have tools. Use them.
Now, a brief recap for our listeners. Try breathing through your nose, watch your posture, maybe add a bit of aerobic exercise, and practice short mindful breathing sessions to reset.
And if anyone wonders why you're expanding your ribcage sideways, just say you're exploring new territory for your lungs.
Yes, my lungs are on a horizontal expansion plan. Meanwhile, your stress response is on a calm down plan.
People might ask, isn't slow breathing just a band-aid? Actually, it's a skill that trains the brain for better long-term resilience.
Right? It's a direct line to that cingulate cortex pons medulla circuit. The more you engage it, the more efficient you become at turning on relaxation.
Which is great news for all of us dealing with life's daily stress alarms.
And because anxiety can be pervasive, any tool helps, especially one that doesn't cost a fortune or come with a side effects label.
Breathing is definitely cost-effective. All you spend is a bit of time and attention.
And there's the intangible benefit of feeling more in control of your own well-being.
It's like realizing you've had the remote control for your stress responses all along. You just needed to swap the batteries.
Precisely.
So if there's one big takeaway, it's that your breath is powerful. The body isn't messing around when it tells you to slow down, breathe less, or breathe more gently.
The science is clear on the importance of tackling anxiety from both the neurological and physical angles.
That's the wisdom part of cellular wisdom, figuring out how these small, often overlooked processes in our bodies can unlock better health.
Well said. Our cells, and the circuits connecting them, have a lot to teach us if we just pay attention.
Speaking of paying attention, I'm noticing we've covered a lot. Mice in chill mode, the wonders of horizontal breathing, the hazards of a stiff torso.
Yes, we definitely gave torso stiffness the spotlight it rarely gets, but it deserves it for how it influences anxiety.
And we gave credit to the unsung hero, slow, intentional breathing. It's not flashy, but it works.
So that's our deep dive into the latest on anxiety and breathing. Thanks for tuning in to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan, reminding you that inhaling and exhaling can be more powerful than you think.
And I'm Alara, cheering you on as you do your best impression of a relaxed gazelle. Graceful, calm, and definitely not stiff in the torso.
We'll be back next time with more insights into the fascinating realm of natural health.
Until then, remember, if you forget everything else, don't forget to breathe.
Take care, everyone.
See you soon, and go expand those rib cages horizontally, please.